So let's then start with defense. See, the first topic. Script is corrected. You submitted the script, it's got, how much did you score? 16 this particular essay. Okay, let's start then. See, as far as the topic is concerned, how have you proceeded with the topic? No, generally, how is your theme? What's the approach for this particular topic?
I tried to change the dimensions. As in generally we go for social, economic and all. I went for WH questions.
Okay.
When defense expenditure, where defense expenditure, why defense expenditure, how much defense expenditure.
Fine. Okay. Okay. And then that is your introduction, and then you've answered the same.
No, my introduction is a story.
Okay. What is it like?
It's a story that Noam Chomsky told.
Okay.
He says, imagine you live in a house. Your monthly expenditure goes for food, medicine, school, maintenance, and also you have a burglar alarm and a dog. I know that the alarm and the dog are very dear to you, but you wouldn't spend on them and avoid food or school. A house is made by the pink hairs of its people and not the sharp canines of its dog.
Makes sense, yes. See, so you can, since you've started with a story, you can also start with a paradox, which is quite reflected in the story. That if there is the prioritizing of the expenditure is the need of the hour. Because defense is equally important as the socio-economic development. But then it depends currently what India needs, why India needs, and how much India needs. So that is what I think you have answered, or you've tried to answer. There are few ways, other ways also you can start this topic, this particular topic can be with quotations and everything. That can also be done. For example, George Orwell has once said that, likh then it is. See, it is said once that, see, for respect to George Orwell, with respect to defense, nahi, don't write George Orwell. There is a book, Art of Wars, that can be quoted. Quote. Yeah. Art of Wars. Just write. A well-equipped army instills fear in the enemy. A well-equipped army instills fear in the enemy. A weak one invites the attack. A weak one invites the attack. See, we can also start with a paradox that on one end, billion-dollar deals are being signed. Whereas, on the other, you can quote the plight of Gorakhpur incident due to lack of funds for procurement of health equipments. Lack of funds to procure health equipments. And this paradoxical situation now has raised the debate that how much is required to be spent on defense. See, There can be multiple ways of writing essay, but just an advice. Now, since exam is approaching, we have to play safe. So the play safe mode is raising questions. That not be required that you raise these questions and write in your essay. What's required is that raise questions to you, to yourself, that how would you proceed with the particular topic. Always remember, within every topic there is a theme, and you have to decide your own theme. The theme is not the exact topic. The theme is what you choose in order to justify or negate the topic. And the moment you choose the theme, try to build questions around that theme. Automatically you will get the structure of your essay. And that's the safest way. Because at times what happens, during exam there's a lot of pressure. You exactly don't know whether you would be able to attempt the similar topics or not. So there is slight amount of pressure. So just follow one strategy. On the basis of the topic, choose your theme. On the basis of the theme, choose the question, and then decide how would you answer the questions. Whether it is story, which you have already said, and then it can be a paradox, or it can be a quotation, which we have just now written. Or one of the way can be, which is the easiest way, is pick up the statistics from the newspaper. For example, the Forbes has recently declared India is the 5th nation as far as defense expenditure is concerned. Or we can also quote Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Either you can quote Forbes data, or you can quote Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, which talks about the spending of the country on their defense. Then we can raise the questions that should India devote large part of its budget on defense? Is the issue financial, or is it moral and political? Should India devote large part of its budget on defense? Is the issue political, or just financial, or just financial? Then we can also write that spending on defense is increasing, whereas we lag behind with respect to spending on health and education. Whereas we lag behind with respect to spending on health and education. Has increased spending on defense made India a safe place to live? And last, would money spent on defense not be better spent on the development of healthcare, housing, infrastructure projects, etc.? See, if you notice, the anecdote which you shared, the questions are directly from the anecdote. This is what you were also questioning, that whether you want a developed or healthy, educated home, or you want to sharpen the canines of your dogs. So this is how the paradox needs to be established. Now, keeping these questions in mind, the body can be further divided, that currently, what is the statistics with respect to defense spending? Second, in case you know, in case you don't know, absolutely fine. You can also bifurcate the nature of spending. For example, revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. See, based on what you have discussed, conclusion means what all you have inferred from the body. That needs to be established. For example, currently this year's budget, there has been increase in the budget allocation, which is worth 5.6%. Whatever was the last year's budget allocation for defense, there has been increase of 5.6%. And currently it stands for 1.8% of your GDP. Now, arguments in favor. Obviously, the strategic, the geographical location of India. On one end you have China, other end you have Pakistan, or growing presence of China, the string of pearl policy. Then you can talk about the economic dealings or the trading which is happening between China and the neighbor of India. For example, Sri Lanka. Or for example, you can quote here Hambantota port. You can talk about Gadar port. You can talk about Chittagong. You can talk about Strait of Malacca, where China wants its presence, both trade per se and also the military presence to be established. So in terms of your security, sovereignty, safety, with respect to the international relations, your sovereignty, your security, territorial integrity, to contain string of pearl policy of China, to establish India as a regional power. Yes. Or the global clout. See, the reason is that that is one way you can make yourself felt presence among the small countries. If you can assure them the defense security mechanisms, and for that defense expenditure is required. Now the problem is that we are spending, but major spending is happening in revenue and not in the capital expenditure. In fact, last year's certain amount of capital expenditure was unused, worth some 6,000 crores. As a result, that was transferred to meet the revenue expenditures. And revenue expenditure is increasing because of 7th Pay Commission and one pay, one rank. Exactly. So because of which revenue spending is increasing, whereas the current need is to increase the capital expenditure. Because capital expenditure deals with modernization, upgradation of the and procurement of the defense equipments. One more way of answering this favor point can be, one, we have talked about international relations. Second, we can also talk about the social dimension, or we can also talk about the economic dimension. For example, we are not only facing threat from the international players, we are also facing threat from the domestic players. So, in order to maintain social cohesion, harmony, we need to contain the internal threats. And internal threats we have, for example, Naxal issues, for example, Kashmir insurgency, for example, northeastern secessionist movements, or currently regionalism, which is on the rise. So we not only have international issues, defense also has social ramification, as in the social cohesion and harmony in the society. You need to contain these few examples or few issues. For example, Naxal issue, regionalism, Karnataka issue aa raha hai na? So to contain that, Kashmir insurgency, northeast secessionist movements, we can Gorkhaland, everything, regionalism, Gorkha land issue would come under that. Then economic aspect also. In fact, what China is pursuing is defense in exchange of economy. It tries to create economic relations. The economic burden is created, and once that is not able to fulfill, yes. And the same is happening with Pakistan also. China-Pakistan economic corridor. One belt, one road, which they are trying to. So, able to repay, exactly, they won't be able to. And slowly and gradually, China would have a permanent presence in that area. And it would be a military presence. Yes.
There are certain Chinese taxes on.
Chinese taxes, in fact, while they are using the road and everything, all the infrastructure that they are using, in fact, in their own country, and they have to pay money to China. In fact, the Chinese businessmen and everyone has now become a permanent establishment there in order to promote that economic corridor. That is why very few days back, I think a week back, the African countries said that we do not want to get into trade alliances with China. We are better off with India. Because in the name of economic trade, they are basically, it's new imperialism which is happening. You are kind of stationing yourself. This is what Britishers did with us in the form of East India Company, and this is what China is doing with these countries. We have Bangladesh as an example. We have Sri Lanka as an example, because when Hambantota port was created, it clearly said it would not be used for military purposes. But since Sri Lanka failed to repay the loans, now China is demanding that don't pay us the loan, but ensure us the military presence in your area. So that is one of the reasons that economic trade is also getting impacted. Economic trade also gets impacted. The problem with us is not the defense expenditure. The problem here is that since we are a developing nation, we have limited resources to be spent. So we need to judicially spend that. One of the problem with our defense is that 70% of your equipments are imported.
Now we are going arguments against.
No, we are talking about arguments in favor only. That why defense expenditure needs to be further increased. The reason is, if you have defense expenditure, you have money in hand, you can definitely go for research and development. We can indigenize the defense technologies. And yes, absolutely. And yes, the new defense procurement policy which has been introduced. And once you acquire the technology through funding, you would be able to indigenize the defense technology, and then we can very soon turn into a exporter, which would anyways help us growing economically. See, defense expenditure, how economically it can help us. We can turn into a exporter. Secondly, it will help us in job creation. It will reduce the burden on our economy. And it can have spin-off effect. Spin-off effect as in, whatever defense technology you are developing, it can be used in other areas. Yes, you can give the examples. You can also talk about deep ocean mapping. You can talk about the agricultural land mapping. All of that can be used. See, there's no dearth of examples. Examples you can give. In fact, it is the investment of US in defense which has given us internet. Usually, whatever we have achieved in the field of space or nuclear power, everything is the effect of the investment in the defense sector. Because usually what you invest in defense can also be used for non-defense purposes. So it can have a spin-off effect. So with respect to international relations, with respect to social aspect, with respect to economic aspect, this is how you can merge or consolidate the arguments in the favor that why defense expenditure needs to be increased. And currently, although defense expenditure is high, but even given the nature of the expenditure, we still need more to happen. And this is very well evident from the CAG report with respect to the Doklam issue. It says that the arms and ammunitions that we have is not enough to sustain a war even for a week. Yes, you can also say that. Clear hai? Then what can be the argument against defense spending?
Sovereignty, security, territorial integrity don't just come from defense expenditure.
Yes, because, and that's a example that you can write, that during 1971 war, India had showcased the defense power and potential, but the wars which were won on the battlefield were lost on the diplomatic tables. That can be the example which can be given, that if defense can only ensure you security, then India would have got Kashmir by now, or the Kashmir dispute would have been resolved by now. We won the Bangladesh Liberation War hands down, but the war which we won on the battlefield was lost on the diplomatic table. So defense can only be a means, but it is not the end. More importantly, what we are not realizing is that defense needs to be developed, but then there has to be indigenization of the technology. There has to be public-private partnership. There has to be Make in India. There is one more perspective. It says when excessive militarization happens along with right-wing politics, it results into authoritarianism. Which is what? Yes, you can. See, there is no hard and fast rule. Right-wing is not wrong. That's an ideology. But the right-wing, in a way, promotes authoritarianism. So whenever there is, that's a finding, that's a report Enlivenment which says whenever there is a militarization along with right-wing politics, there would be authoritarianism. Excessive militarization along with right-wing politics leads to authoritarianism. In fact, one of the points says that the more you go for militarization, more are the chances of war. Because it has a domino effect. One country comes with defense equipments, the other country also starts following the tail. So that is what the problem, domino effect. It hampers the global peace and harmony. Yes. Why go for any other example? Our case, Kargil war. The Pokhran test would not have happened. Pakistan would not have declared that they are also nuclear weapon state, and the Kargil issue would not have emerged. Then here we can highlight the plight that how with respect to education, health, skill, we are lagging behind. How the government expenditure in these areas is much below the requirement.
We can say the expenditure, the reduced expenditure in these areas is what is prompting more government expenditure in defense.
That,
because this is related to the internal threat, Naxalism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a vicious cycle. That's a very well said point. If you will adequately invest in education, infrastructure, health infrastructure, skill infrastructure, the internal crisis at least can be addressed. Because at the end of it, what matters is the economic inequality and deprivation, which results into internal conflict. Yes, that point can be said. See, but there is one aspect that we all are social beings. And social beings, there has to be a difference of opinion. There would be a conflict. Okay? And at the same time, the more the population pressure is increasing, more is the burden on the resources. And the situation for the war, now or later, would be created. So, the defense preparation might not help you in fighting the war. It may also help you in reducing the probability of the war. Because if you are well prepared of it, the enemy would think twice before attacking. So that is also one of the things. See, difference of opinion, the scarcity of resources, the conflict over resources, this is something which is natural. This will happen. Every now and then you would be at the situation of conflict and or at a situation of war. But when two countries are well prepared, chances of war automatically reduces. ठीक है? Corruption, red tapeism, yes.
Very poor efficiency in terms of production.
Makes sense. In fact, arguments against me, everything can be quoted. The kind of goods that we are using, the weapons, the ammunitions, they are very obsolete, first of all. The more presence of the public sector in defense manufacturing has led to inefficiency, corruption and red tapeism. Inefficiency, corruption and red tapeism. Lack of expertise. No one is there to guide us that what kind of ammunitions is required. Up-to-date technology is missing. Mostly the ammunitions or the equipments that we are acquiring from other nations are one that they have rejected years back. Usually it happens. When once they have rejected a particular equipment, absolutely. That can be the example. Sukhoi can be the example. Yes, yes, still used in India. In fact, I still remember there was this classified document which was released with respect to 1971 war. During that time, the Nixon, the president, said that Indian defense minister went there before 1971 for the procurement of certain equipments. So there he said the kind of equipments India has, those equipments are nothing better to be otherwise to kept in the museum. They're only meant to be kept in the museum, and but ironically, those fighter jets only helped India to win the war. But that's a different story. Half of the time, though, we win the war with our spirit and by God's grace. So, as far as technology preparation goes, we are far behind.
Internal resentment against Pakistan in East.
Yes, that can be one of the reasons. And then that situation was altogether very different. Neither they were also not very well equipped. See, just by having the equipment does not make you well equipped. You should have the spirit also to use that equipment. So that was missing there. So that's a different issue. But yes, with respect to China, we can't expect that by God's grace or by spirit we'll win. Otherwise, 1962 war we would have not lost. We are not prepared as far as to face China is concerned. And see, if your borders are not secured, no, internal progress cannot be ensured. And that is one of the reasons why after 70 years of independence also, we are here. Because every time Congress, or because during that time Congress was only ruling, every time they wished to come up with the policies of socio-economic development, there was a threat at the border. 47 war, 62, 65, 71. So every time the 5-year plan was failing. So if your borders are not secured, internal development cannot be ensured. So border development security is the need of the hour. But the overall suggestion that we have to give, there we can mention that defense expenditure is not the issue. The issue is where we need to spend the money. Most of the time we are spending the money on pension, on other perks which have been given to these officers, rather than upgrading the defense overall, whether it is army, whether it is air force, whether it is navy. The overall upgradation is missing. And then we can quote the suggestions. Huh.
Also give that the string of pearls policy for China.
Huh.
We could counter it by not just defense expenditure, but the way we have already by signing treaties for Chabahar or Trincomalee in Sri Lanka.
Fine.
Or Sikwe.
Fine. Myanmar mein. Yes, so we are already pursuing the policy of counter string of pearl of policy, but then they say that your navy needs to be very strong. So blue water navy needs to be developed. So that needs to be written. As a suggestion, you can say that blue water navy needs to be developed. Modernization of armed forces. See, there is a difference between modernization and indigenization. What we need is modernization. The offset policy in defense can come handy. The offset policy in defense can come handy. And then obviously the soft diplomacy needs to be promoted. Because anyways, if war happens or any kind of threat happens, overall it is not good. So soft diplomacy, dialogue, constructive dialogues between various countries needs to be promoted.
Shikarpur committee report. Combined defense. The chief of defense staff, CODS post.
Maybe for better coordination and cooperation. Yes, you can say, because with respect to military, it always happens that the land forces, army, have certain kind of superior ego as compared to the other two forces, and which is the main reason why we have not been faring well in various wars. Yes, you can say, to ensure better cooperation. But see, that exactly does not come under defense expenditure wala topic. Isliye I did not suggested that. But yes, overall you can say that cooperation will help in avoiding wastage of resources. That can be said. That better cooperation between the different wings of defense.
Sahayak system.
Yes, can say that.
Building the morale of the entire lower ranks, which affects the efficiency at the moment.
Then again, it's not related to defense expenditure. See, in the question, it would have been defense. Analyze the defense preparation of India. Then these things can come. That just by providing resources, it would not work. It should penetrate at all levels. Too much of hierarchy and top-down approach exists, where all the benefits have been reaped by the higher rung of forces, and the lower, the conditions are very dismal. And these are the main people who are fighting for us at the border. But that would have come overall defense. This is only with respect to the defense expenditure. Is that clear? So we'll talk about suggestions में वही make in India होना चाहिए, public private partnerships होनी चाहिए, जितनी भी defense public sector undertakings हैं उनका proper evaluation, upgradation, there is lot of corruption with respect to defense equipment procurement, so that corruption needs to be checked. And overall inference or the conclusion that we can draw is, you can never pit defense against socio-economic necessities, because both in their capacity or context is important. You can never pit defense against socio-economic necessities, as both are required in their respective capacities. and then you can trace the impact. See, if your internal development is not is not taking place, that means your environment is not secured. And if your environment is not secured, your socio-economic development cannot result it. So basically, both are interlinked with each other. Hence, the issue should not be of expenditure. The issue should be securing the economy of expenditure. As in, it is well utilized. Securing economy of the expenditure. It needs to be well utilized. There was this one Vegetives, a functionary in Roman Empire, who said, if you want peace, prepare for war. But it has been changed today. If you want peace, prepare for trade. Trade can be in defense equipments as well. If you want peace, prepare for war. It has been reframed now. If you want peace, prepare for trade. Just one advice, if you are well versed with the statistics or reports, just don't make it information overload. But just keep that in mind. Too many statistics also leave a very bad impression. And the problem with our country is every now and then a new report comes and the statistics changes. So which statistics you have quoted, it is also a major issue. So just give a broad picture rather than giving the exact information until and unless you are very sure of it. Let's take the next topic, that is culture of band. Bolu.
I added one dimension there.
Bolu.
I said preparation of war on multiple facets. As in, we just don't have territorial war now.
हाँ.
We have cyber war.
ठीक
We
है.
have a threat of space war.
ठीक है.
We have a threat of war on terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism.
हाँ.
So all the different facets of defense have to be active.
Makes sense. In fact, one of the reasons why we are not able to contain Naxalism is we are not prepared for that kind of tactics. The tactics are missing. So that needs to be ensured. Our army, our defense needs to be trained in all.
The slogan that Home Ministry gave for tackling Naxalism.
You need to check that.
From S.
That you need to check. So basically here, important aspect is, yes, this point makes sense, that you have to be prepared at all fronts. Cybersecurity needs to be upgraded. Space war, that's the future of the global warfare. It would not be fought on the battlefields, it would be fought with technology. So that needs to be taken care of, yes. So the expenditure now needs to be focused in various directions. Proper training of personals, more ammunitions, upgraded ammunitions is required. Only then the result can unfold.
And there were two contrasting points.
Batao.
There were two perspectives on war, which, as a coincidence, came out in the same month of the same year.
Okay.
Desmond Tutu said, sometimes you have to pull a gun up to put the gun down.
Okay.
And John Lennon said, war is over if you want it.
ठीक है. Makes sense. See, that is what I'm saying. It all depends that what theme you have chosen for yourself. You don't realize, but you actually choose a theme while answering a topic. Because if that is not possible, then you will never be able to structure your topic. So the next topic is ban culture. Is it a threat to India's democracy? And what's exact? नहीं, ban वाला topic क्या है?
The culture of ban, threat to democracy and diversity in India.
The culture of ban, threat to democracy and diversity in India. Just take 2 minutes and prepare a rough structure of this topic. See, there's a very famous quotation that Voltaire has said, I may disapprove of what you say, but I'll protect your right till death to say. So that is one thing that can be written. There's one more, just right. Censorship is to art as lynching is to justice. Censorship is to art as lynching is to justice. There is one more. You don't have to burn books to destroy a culture. Just get people to stop reading them. Just get people to stop reading them. Mark Twain has also given a very good quote. Censorship is like telling a man he can't have a steak just because a baby can't chew it. He can't have a steak just because a baby can't chew it. See, how do you perceive to, or how would you like to approach this topic? What theme would you choose for this topic?
I would go for individual to social to community to group.
As in that how culture of ban is acting,
At an individual level,
huh,
at a community level,
huh,
at a society level,
and at the global, national, yeah, huh, India at the global platform, and then how it is impacting democracy and diversity. Makes sense. That can be a thing. But why are we only looking at the negative perspective?
No,
Huh.
I started myself with a paradox.
Huh.
As in, I gave, firstly, we look at bans from a negative perspective.
ठीक है.
Amartya Sen says that human development is the expansion of choices.
Choices. Huh.
This is the very restriction of choices.
ठीक
Ban
है.
is the very restriction of
ठीक है.
choices. On the second hand, people may make choices like spitting on the road or smoking in public. Ban on such things are actually preventing society from self-destructing. So this is the positive side of bans, which are necessary to keep the diversity in the society, protect the diversity.
Absolutely. So then we can start with this paradox that there are basically, you need to understand that what kind of ban and how you are imposing that ban. For example, ban on triple talaq. It is to uphold the fundamental right of a woman, that is equality and life with dignity. So in that capacity, if ban is upholding your basic fundamental rights and the law of land, it is positive interpretation. Whereas, see, it is such an irony, and when you give such paradox, you can use the similar example. For example, ban on triple talaq is a progressive step to raise the status of women empowerment. But on the same end, you have banned lipstick under my burqa because it was believed to be a blasphemous depiction of women. So this is the irony which is existing.
We didn't ban it.
We did. It was a particular section of producers who have decided to come up with the movie online. And then we had to lift. And that ban is not completely lifted.
No, it was released with cuts
Huh.
by the CBFC.
No, the cut is altogether a different issue. It was released much later when there was a lot of issue in the media that the international festivals have appreciated and our own country is not releasing. Then there was a set of producers who said, we'll release it online if you're not allowing us to release the movie in the theater. So finally we came up with various cuts. So the point we don't realize is censorship dilutes the entire essence of the cinema that we want to project it to the people. On one end, you want it to be the real depiction of your society. And in case it is the real depiction, then you censor it. So that's the paradox of our society. So we can establish, or we can start with a paradox. Then we can also talk about the premise. Huh.
There's a really good way in which we can put
Huh.
that. I can say years ago there was a very important ban, which perhaps is the reason that India is still a democracy. It was a ban on whimsical constitutional amendments.
Makes
Which
sense.
was put forward by the Supreme Court in the Keshanand Bharti.
ठीक है, ठीक है.
Said that you cannot amend certain
Basic structures of the constitution. ठीक है, makes sense. Yes, yes, you can do that. In fact, you can say that the ban has to be there in order to maintain the harmony and the cohesion in the society, or to uphold the basic essence on which your society is established. Justice, equality, liberty. In order to promote these things, if you are imposing a ban, it is justified. But just in the name of that, under Article 19, your freedom of speech and expression is not absolute. You can't keep banning every other thing. So that needs to be taken care of. So one thing can be done. If you really want to start it, like Keswanand Bharti case and everything, you can start with Article 19 of the Constitution. You can take the basic premise to be your Constitution. And then you can try to project.
we can say that Article 19 in itself contains the ideal directions on how to go about.
Absolutely.
There is the Article 19 clause 1,
Mhm.
there is the clause 2.
Two. But then there is a problem. In the name of there is written something morality. Then what is moral? Who decides what is morality? So that is what the problem is. That is a debate then. So yes, but yes, you can say that under Article 19, it's not an absolute right. But in the name of restrictions, you cannot keep restricting everything. So you can start with the premise. In fact, such topics which is currently in news, one should always start with either an anecdote or the current information. That in the backdrop of ban on cow slaughter, or you can say the pornographic ban, or the ban on that BBC documentary, India's Daughter. So you can give such examples just to lend some credibility to the beginning of your answer. It is always advisable. Premise always works. In fact, we can also give historical evidences that culture of ban, which is currently very hot topic or heated debate, is something which is existing since ages. We can talk about the British rule, the censorship of press during emergency, banning of political parties with different ideology. RSS was banned, CPI was banned during emergency. So all of that can be written. That ban culture is not something which is new. But what is new this time is, this time the society is getting compartmentalized, because the ban is very closely related to some ingrained features of stratification. For example, gender, caste, religion. That is why it has compartmentalized the society. So the current trend of ban needs to be deliberated upon. For example, there was a book, One Part Women, which was banned. That was religious aspect, that women has not been projected in the light, or our religious sentiments have been hurt by that. Perumal Murugan, I think the book was written by him. So that is what the problem is. That now the culture of ban is such that it is compartmentalizing the society between haves and have-nots. It is appearing as if we are imposing the majoritarian culture on the minorities. It is communally charging the political climate of your nation. That can be one.
India is fast becoming a pure democracy,
Huh?
as opposed to being a democratic republic. Because a republic means the respect given to
Each individual. Nahin, but it is not becoming even a pure democracy. You can say that it is becoming
is run on majority.
nahin, it's not fine. I got the point, majority. But the point here is that it is not even majority is not, their interest is also not being because we are living more in the post-truth analysis phase where we make you believe that this is the reality. It might not be the reality. Because see, if you have banned beef, I totally agree that in certain Hindu communities, cow slaughter and everything. But how many, even the Brahmin Hindus today are consuming non-veg. The culture has altogether changed. But despite the culture being changed, this one issue has polarized the society into one in favor of ban and one against the ban. That is what the problem is.
Now, an introduction.
हाँ बताओ. Tell.
There is a small passage in Ministry of Utmost Happiness.
ठीक है.
Roy writes
हाँ
it.
हाँ
There is a character.
ठीक.
Her mother is asking an individual, where are you from?
Hmm.
So he says, South India. He says, in which region?
Hmm.
He says, Kerala.
Hmm.
Which area in Kerala? He says, Malabar Coast.
Hmm.
He says, which area, which district? He says, Alappuzha. He
Hmm.
says, what religion?
Religion.
He says, Christian.
Hmm.
He says, what type of Christian? He says, I am a Protestant. She says, I am a Syrian Christian, die little pig.
हाँ. Yes, this is how the society is divided, compartmentalized. Yes. In fact, this needs to be seen that now people are justifying that if you belong to a certain religion, then they say, no, you belong to that particular caste within that. Then within that caste, you have subcaste to which you belong. So basically, the overall identity has been lost. Are you not? Yes. So this is how it works. So yes, culture of ban, we can write, and then we can talk about, we can pose question. Is it a new phenomena? Or is it a threat to democracy and diversity? Is it morally justified? There was this one female whose book The Hindus, An Alternative History. That was a book which was written, and she said a very good thing. She said, I never expected a good response for my book. But the moment it was banned, it generated too much curiosity in everyone that automatically the readership or the view had significantly increased. So one needs to understand that if you want to curtail or curb something, this should be the last option. Because the moment you impose a ban, the people would take it or perceive it as if you have lost your freedom. And there would be a strong reaction to that. वो नहीं होता घर पे जो चीज करने से मना कर दो वो सबसे पहले करते हैं. This is a normal human tendency. So in case ban should be the last option, what can be done is that a general understanding. Whenever two people are there, there is bound to be difference of opinion. And whenever there is difference of opinion, there would be a conflict. And conflict needs to be constructively resolved. And which can be done only through debates, public discussions, awareness, absolutely, yes.
Good bans, as in, for example, smoking.
बिल्कुल.
We didn't ban it right when it started.
हाँ.
In fact, we had a good amount of discourse on when, how, where should we ban.
And in what capacity it should be banned. In fact, I'll tell you something about it, that if you believe this is your society, ठीक है, and if the demand for any change emerges from within the society, it would be easily accepted. But if you are trying to impose any ban or changes from outside, there would always be a reaction, no matter how good the ban is or whether it is in their interest or not. Irrespective of that, there would be a reluctance or a resistance. So it is always advisable that the demand for the ban or for the social change needs to be created from within the system. For example, triple talaq. Absolutely. In fact, I'll tell you something. Shah Bano judgment was there. During that time, it was not a successful thing. because the community was not made aware about the negatives which is happening in the name of personal laws and religion. But during Shaira Bano case, which has happened this time, the climate is very much charged up in the favor of women empowerment and reforms. And that is why they have been able to ban triple talaq. And not much counter reactions has emerged, because for the very first time, even the males among that All India Muslim Personal Law Board has demanded that ban on triple talaq should be there. So an arrangement needs to be created for debates and discussions. For example, we have banned commercial surrogacy. That's not justified. It is against the right to life, your individuality. So that thing needs to be addressed. For example, that alcohol ban, which exists in many states. What do you think? If any industry which is giving your state so much of resources, do you think it can be banned? The moment it is banned, it becomes underground. It becomes all the more illegal. Corruption further flares up. Rather than banning alcohol, it should have started with creating awareness among the people not to consume alcohol, and in the phased manner, it should have been banned.
Since the ban they have been doing.
Yes. In fact, one of the reasons for a drug issue in Punjab was banning of opium trade. Opium used to be legally cultivated and shared, or the the border, state border between Punjab and Rajasthan, it used to happen. But the moment opium was banned, the legal cultivation, people started resorting to that pharmaceutical drugs, and then finally heroin and other things, which became very life-threatening. Opium was never life-threatening, but consumption of heroin had become very addiction or economically burdening and life-threatening.
Give example of US marijuana legalization.
Yes, yes. In fact, you can give so many examples. For example, legalization of prostitution, which exists in other countries. Because the moment you ban something, it becomes underground. Homosexuality is criminalized in our country. It's a kind of a ban which you have imposed. On one end, you're talking about transgender to be treated as third gender, and then you are putting a ban on homosexuality. It's not justified. Then use of cuss words. You can use cuss words in your daily life, but that cannot be used in the movie, which is made to depict the reality. If you're depicting a certain section of society which talks like that, how can you put a ban on that?
Here comes the distinction between Central Board of Film certification
and censorship. It was always a board of certification. It had automatically given itself the task of censorship. It was only meant to give the certificate. You give the certificate as A. Who has asked you to, that's what I was said, that a man is asked not to consume a steak because some child cannot chew it. So that needs to be taken care of. Yes. So these points can be written as far as culture, and then you can establish the fact that how these kind of a ban is acting as a threat to democracy and diversity. On one end, in fact, the cow slaughter se ek baat yaad aayi. Gandhi ji ne clearly day one kaha tha, you cannot ban cow slaughter until and unless that person is disposed towards that act in the seminal manner. Maybe my religion respects cow, but that religion cannot be made the religion for entire India. You need to realize that, yes, he did say that. In fact, during that time, he was talking about that Pakistan right from day one was a Muslim country. And India right from day one was the country for all the religion. It was a secular country. So you cannot impose Hindu culture over others. So one, the questions that we can raise in the entire question, who decides what is morally correct? How the ban needs to be imposed? Is it leading to what is known as melting pot? You are trying to assimilate the entire society into the fold of the majoritarian society. That is what is happening currently. Instead of creating a salad bowl, you are trying to create a melting pot. It is a threat to your diversity. Diversity with respect to language, diversity with respect to religion, region, ethnicity, everything. And when you don't have equality, you don't have freedom, you don't have liberty, then automatically your democracy comes under threat. So then what needs to be done?
Again, the system of checks and balances has to be developed.
Yes.
From within and without the society.
Makes sense. Checks and balances from within and without the society. And most importantly, everyone would be realized dissent is not deviance. There should be more tolerance towards dissent. In fact, dissent is considered to be highest form of patriotism. So dissent and deviance में बहुत फर्क होता है. In case it is a constructive dissent, in case it is something to do with your cultural ethos and beliefs, and it is not harming the society in general, it should not be banned. It should be respected. See, if one person is consuming beef, how is it harming the other section of the society? What we don't realize is the moment you put a ban, it has socio-economic ramifications. That needs to be taken care of. When you have put a ban on beef, it has impacted the economy of many small-scale workers. Informal sector was majorly impacted. There was a particular section, Muslims, who were majorly impacted. Whenever your economy is under threat, primordial identities are on the rise. Always remember, whenever your economy is under threat, primordial identities are on the rise. Yes, in every capacity. Cultural xenophobia. Because then we start believing in one thing, that is zero-sum game. We believe that the power in society is constant. And if someone is gaining power, it means someone is losing power. So we can talk about different bans. Hence, we should promote cultural pluralism rather than culture of ban. And then you can talk about the impact, how culture of ban is impacting an individual. Individual freedom, identity, assertion, existence, everything is threatened. Then how it is impacting the community. How it is impacting overall nation. Nation की economy impact हो रहा है. उसकी social cohesion impact हो रहा है. Nation की position at the global level is getting impacted. OIC. In fact, you remember the racial intolerance cases against the African students? You know, that has resulted into the... Absolutely. And in fact, the bilateral relations between India and Africa got impacted by that. So this impacts the nation's position at global level also. So it needs to be corrected. So final suggestions we can write that the rationale behind ban needs to be deliberated upon. Ban culture should not be under the populist pressure. Most of the time it is there to appease a certain section of the society. Media should play the constructive role of fourth pillar of democracy. Media has actually lost the premise that what was the actual purpose of media in the society. Active participations of NGOs and civil societies to generate awareness with respect to a particular issue so as to facilitate the acceptance or rejection of the ban. Yes. In fact, NAS Foundation has come for LGBT rights, for homosexualities, they have done a considerable work. इनफैक्ट पता है इन सारे टॉपिक्स पे हर एक आर्ग्यूमेंट को जितना एग्जाम्पल दे के समझाओगे ना उतना बेटर इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. जो भी ऐसे टॉपिक्स होते हैं ना इनको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी की तरह लिया करो. जैसे इफ यू आर मेकिंग एन आर्ग्यूमेंट ऑलवेज गिव अ एग्जाम्पल बिकॉज समटाइम्स इट हैपेंस दैट व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू कन्वे टू द एग्जामिनर ही माइट नॉट हैव understood it. With example, he would get the clarity what exactly you are trying to say. And then we can say that India is known for its diversity. So hence, unity in diversity or accommodation of diversity needs to be promoted rather than ban culture. Next, let's take the sports topic. Potential facilitator for peace or a battleground. Just write one quotation and then you can think of. Just write, at international level, sport is frankly, at international level, sport is frankly mimic warfare that is war minus shooting. War minus shooting. George Orwell. The exact topic is sports potential facilitator of peace in battleground of global power or a potential battleground. This entire topic, in my opinion, needs to be answered only through examples. Right from any example, whether in the favor that how it has acted as a facilitator of peace or how it has itself converted into a battleground. For example, India-Pakistan. It becomes, instead of acting as a facilitator, it becomes a battleground only in itself. So yes, we can quote the entire topic through examples. Because uske alawa, it would be just beating around the bush.
I have an introduction.
Batao.
Sports in both the scenarios can be imagined through 4 images.
Okay.
First image is the image of 2 gentlemen walking hand in hand at the 1936 Olympic Games, Hitler and Mussolini. They are the respective heads of their nations at that time. And the second is of an Indian-Pakistan cricket match and the atmosphere in the stadium.
ठीक है.
The rest 2 images, first is of American African athletes taking a kneel right now during the American national anthem playing. And second is the image of Rohan Bopanna and Aisam Ulhaq Qureshi, the Indo-Pak Express at the
ठीक है.
Berlin Open.
ठीक है. Yes. Yes. You can start with that. In fact, when we were talking about Olympics, you can also start with the symbol that is used by Olympic, which talks about the 5 rings, that the cooperation between the 5 continents. You can start with that. Or you can talk about the Olympic Truce Association, which talks about that all the global conflicts needs to be resolved through sports. So just write one thing that would help you. Sports have long been idealized as a way to heal wounds, mend fences, and rise above the differences among cultures and nations. Rise above the differences among cultures and nations. And then we can start with the examples. So,
We could give the origin story.
uh-huh.
Greece, different city-states.
City-states coming together.
Their talent, resolving their disputes, becoming the Greece of that age.
Makes sense. In fact, during that time, we can talk also about the Indian history, that how during Britishers, the Gymkhana Club existed and the people belonging to different religions used to participate. It was more a way to exemplify your racial superiority as compared to the others. So that was the thing. In fact, during the Cold War period, usually the games that used to happen between the capitalist country and the communist country was not all about game. It was more about which ideology wins. So that is how it works.
Those were capitalist medals and
Communist medals. In fact, that the US and China ping pong diplomacy during the period of Nixon, that is one good example which can be written. Yes, yes, yes. India-Australia cricket diplomacy. We can talk about that. In fact, how India-Pakistan relations have emerged over the period of time. Whenever there was a period from 1960, 62 precise, till 78, there was no cricket match between India and Pakistan because of the two wars and everything which was happening during that time. So that can also be quoted as an example. So you can start either with the historical evolution, that how sports was seen as a sign of cultural integration, assimilation. We can also start with the quotation. We can also talk about how today the relations can be mended not only through economic trade or defense or militarization. It can be ensured through sports as well. In fact, sports diplomacy is a cost-effective diplomacy. And it has always been used that ways. Suppose two countries are at loggerheads. They'll refuse to play against each other. This is a very subtle way of showing displeasure towards the other country.
The entire Cold War period.
Yes, the entire Cold.
And all the Olympics in Russia, Russia banned
All the Olympics. In fact, Israel never plays against any other country because of its own issues. So that happens during World Cup, keh lo, Soccer World Cup, keh lo, FIFA and everything. They never play against each other.
Palestine getting
Yes, 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 absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Palestine issue हो सकता है.
Refugees representing themselves at the 2014 Rio.
Yes, 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 yes. In fact, that didn't go down well with the other side because it was believed that now you are recognizing Palestine. Yes. So that can be said. In fact, there was a story then between two countries, Honduras and El Salvador. Basically, they started with a match and the match turned into a war. Actually, there was a war after that. They lost, one of the country lost the match and it was escalated at such a level that there was an actual war which took place between them. In fact, just write one example. During 2006 World Cup, Cote d'Ivoire, yes, there was a star striker who said that the match, or the soccer to be very precise, took away the attention from the civil war. Took away the attention from the civil war. That is also one of the reasons. Sometimes internal crisis is going on. Sometimes there is a war which is going on. And this sport helps to divert the attention of the people. So it plays a very good role in ensuring cooperation and cohesion in the society. And most importantly, in today's time when technology has developed so much, everybody has access now to these sports and the matches and everything. So now it is no more about game, athlete, or it is more about ideology, spirit, culture. It is a way to show your culture and to get recognition in the society. In fact, एक और example लिखो. In September 2008, the presidents of Armenia and Turkey used soccer to reopen the diplomatic dialogues. Next, you can write, in 2013, UN General Assembly adopted a resolution establishing 6th April as the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. Just write one perspective. According to Robert Keohane and Joseph Nee, according to Robert Keohane and Joseph Nee, world has turned into an era of complex interdependence. World has turned into an era of complex interdependence, and military strength does not dominate every agenda. In fact, why we are only restricting ourselves to the global power game? See, sports usually, you have conflict between two sections of society which are different from each other. India is an example which is different internally. So there was a committee, Base Barua Committee, against the Northeast intolerance which was happening. So there he suggested that sports needs to act as a facilitator in order to mainstream Northeastern people in the Indian society. So that example can be taken, Base Barua Committee. Base Barua Committee. This is given the recommendation that sports should be used as a facilitator to mainstream Northeastern people in the Indian society. However, I exactly don't remember which country was that. I think Chad and Sudan. They were two countries where actually all the matches between them were cancelled because there was a very strong report about a civil war was about to break. So not always sports act as a facilitator. Sometimes there is a fear that it would turn into a battleground. So that is why, so that was an incident. I exactly don't remember how long it was, but there was a situation where all the matches were cancelled. In fact, it was with respect to Chad only. One more incident was there. Their relationship was not good with one country, and but they wanted to pursue the diplomatic channels through sports. So a team was sent to the other country, but the entire bus which was carrying the player was blown. It was blasted, so all of them died. So there also, that sport was used as a sign of peace and diplomacy, but it backfired.
2009 Sri Lankan bus attack.
Huh? Yes, you can say that. Yes. So we can make use of this example, because in this particular topic, I think apart from examples, there's not much to write. हाँ, एज सच इन जनरल हम थ्योरीज की बात कर सकते हैं दैट स्पोर्ट्स आपके अंदर एक नया ऑल टुगेदर अ न्यू पर्सोना इज इनकलकेटेड, यू बिकम डिसिप्लिन्ड, यू बिकम मोर कल्चरली अकोमोडेटिव because in a team you have people. In fact, this is the example of unity in diversity. You are fighting for a cause of a particular sport, that's the spirit. Then team spirit is inculcated, discipline is inculcated, respect for others' existence, participative orientation. So it is a facilitator of a peace at global level. More cooperation, interaction, but that is a overall picture. But then you have to support all the arguments through examples.
Then can I?
Huh.
This will be a kind of manipulation of the topic.
Huh.
But I'm saying games are so much associated with war that countries have now started war games. US South Korea war games near the North Korean border, or India Japan and US naming them
War games with respect to China intervention. Nahin, it won't work here. Reason I'll tell you. That can be a good way, but you're not very sure that maybe examiner perceives it, rather not that you are drawing an analogy. They would say that you've not understood the topic. So let's not take this risk. हाँ, war games, but वहाँ पे sports क्लियरली लिखा हुआ है, सो वी वुड नॉट डेल्व इनटू दैट. इनफैक्ट अगर इसको थोड़ा सा ट्विस्ट करके अपना थोड़ा मटेरियल एक्सटेंड करना है तो ग्लोबल की बजाय थोड़ा सा लोकल भी कर सकते हैं. दैट्स द ओनली थिंग दैट कैन बी डन. इनफैक्ट वो भी टॉपिक नहीं है वैसे देखा जाए तो, क्योंकि उन्होंने क्लियरली ग्लोबल पावर बोल रखा है. बट अब क्योंकि वी हैव टू राइट समथिंग, सो येस वी कैन से दैट. हाँ बिल्कुल. इनफैक्ट यही बोला गया है कि यू हैव टू क्रिएट दीज टीम्स सो दैट दे गेट मेन स्ट्रीम्ड इन द सोसाइटी. जितने भी ये लेफ्ट आउट एरियाज हैं, स्पोर्ट्स ओनली इज अ वे. तो यस, हम इसमें स्पोर्ट्स के पॉजिटिव्स के बारे में बात कर सकते हैं. व्हाट कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग स्पोर्ट्स कंट्रीब्यूट्स टू, दैट कैन बी डन. देन हाउ इट हेल्प्स योर कंट्री टू गेन प्रेजेंस इन द ग्लोबल लेवल. Because usually it is seen that people from very small countries, they are going and winning the medals. So it automatically seeks recognition or acceptance for the country at the global level. And then once you get presented or accepted, then you also, it's a beginning, it's a stepping stone for putting across your ideology also. So yes, it acts as a facilitator. We can say that. But sometimes it backfires and it becomes a battleground in itself. So for that, we have written 2-3 examples that can be done. So overall, this basically does not have any suggestion kind of a thing. But what we can say that ki, sports needs to be viewed.
Can you give Brazil as an example? Post the World Cup, the financial situation actually came to light when the expenditure was.
Yes, and expenditure, and most importantly the Olympics में जितना crime rate हो रहा था वहाँ पर, हाँ फुटबॉल वर्ल्ड कप, तो उसमें जितना क्राइम रेट वगैरह हो रहा था, बिकॉज द प्लेयर्स हु हैव गॉन देयर, द वैंडलिज्म एंड द थेफ्ट व्हिच वाज हैपनिंग, स्नैचिंग ऑफ द, सो दैट एक्चुअली ब्रॉट इन लाइट द प्लाइट ऑफ दैट एरिया. यस, दैट पॉइंट कैन बी रिटन. And we can say at the end, it helps in promoting peaceful international relations in spite of geopolitical differences. So in that capacity, it can be written.
Last week,
Huh.
football team going to North Korea to play a football game.
Makes sense? Yes, we can write all of that. So basically, international peace, harmony, despite the differences. In fact, it acts as a medium to resolve the differences. Because that, and the best example would be that ping pong diplomacy between America and China. For 2 decades, there was no interaction between the two countries. In fact, they never interacted. It was only after that period, Nixon, that he made the immediate visit to China the very next year after the ping pong diplomacy, which has altered the relations, at least to some extent. Let's talk about the last topic then, startup.
We can write that the ping pong ball became the wrecking ball
ठीक है. The last is startup, future prospects and challenges. What's your current stake with respect to startups? What's your opinion with respect to startups currently? Regarding what's their future? See, there was a time 2015 where it was like everyone was very much pro startup. There was startup industry was booming. It was, progressing. But all of a sudden there was a slump. There was a retreat during 2016. And currently we are in the phase of 2017. And it has been said that this year is very crucial because that would be deciding year for the future of startups in India. So, see, this is the topic exact, startup in innovation. But usually startup is about innovation. So you can write startup also in general. Huh.
I feel that this is the, how would I say, very short-term perspective that is being given to startup. As in innovation will only last until certain phase. It is a field. Electronics is a field.
ठीक है.
Startups are mostly concentrated in electronics
ठीक
right
है.
now. They are expanding.
ठीक है.
But it is a field. Most importantly, what startups have actually been given credit for worldwide is ending the tendency of monopoly and bringing
competition so that better serve.
For example, in US, from 2006, I guess, to 2014, there were 9 to 10 mergers, and the airline sector, the entire international airline sector was brought down to 2 competitors. Now that was a huge problem for people because they were being continuously mistreated, overcharged, short-handed in terms of schedules and delays and all that, and they had no option to go. And suddenly you had 6 new startups coming into that phase. And suddenly the same people who were US may it started before India. The criticism of startups that this is just a bubble, we are just spending money into nothing, it is going nowhere. All are failing, there is hardly, and that quirk of valuation versus the
real assets and the real estimations. Absolutely.
That was first started in US, but suddenly when this airline example came into view, everybody suddenly became, oh, it is not just about innovation, it can be about competition as well.
Yes. See, now did you realize you've chosen a theme for yourself?
Oh yes.
The topic is nowhere talking about, that's your perception of startup, that it's not only about innovation, it's also about competition. Pick this theme and write what are the future prospects and challenges. This is what I'm trying to say, that for every topic you have to decide a theme. Only then you can structure your topic. For example, if I had to choose, I would have said that we are although starting with startup in innovation, but the major problem with our startup is that 90% of them are not innovative enough. We are more like a rent seekers rather than wealth creators. Whatever models are existing outside, we are trying to just replicate those models. Where is innovation? We have completely discounted the concept of startups.
The Startup India Hub rejecting 93% of the applications.
Absolutely. Because they are not innovative. We have actually misconstrued the term innovation. Innovation not always means technology. Innovation means something new. It can be incremental also, as in already something is existing, but you are coming up with some newness, as in the idea. For example, the topic you have innovated. You have given a new theme to the topic. That is also innovation. Not always you require technology for that. But this is something misconstrued or misperceived by many of us. So the problem or the beginning or the introduction can be with respect to the premise or choose your theme. In this topic, there cannot be anything else. Or you can start with your perception of innovation, or you can start with what is the current perception with respect to startups. Any which way you want to start. Absolutely. Bilkul, the retreat phase, and then there is a the current perspective, and there is a myth. I don't know to what extent it would be result in future, but they are saying that startup bubble is almost on the verge of bursting. So let's see to what extent. So that is the premise. You can also start with the evolution, that how startup in India is not something which is current. It has been existing since 4 decades. What was Infosys? It was a startup. What was Wipro? It was a startup. What was TCS? It was a startup. So startup is not something which is new, but yes,
5 crores.
absolutely.
5 crores was its entire
Uh,
purpose.
You can say, and in fact, you can say at the same time that the problem is not startup. The problem is the pace at which the startups are proliferating, that now it has become a topic which needs to be deliberated upon. Every nook and corner, people are actually giving up their jobs for startup without even realizing what actually is a startup. So that is what the problem is. For example, Flipkart. It's a good example of startup. They just started for the purpose of delivering books, and how all of a sudden it transformed into Flipkart, even if its existence is coming under threat. So it's high time that we need to look into the matter, that what is the problem with startups. See, the question is saying future, prospects and challenges. But first you want to, or you should discuss what are the issues with respect to startup. Only then you can talk about the future and prospects. So first in the body we would be talking about the issues. The first and foremost issue is originality, which is missing. Second is Zuckerberg syndrome. Everybody wants to become CEO, CTO. That's Zuckerberg syndrome. Nobody wants to put in the effort which is required in creating a startup. Everybody is looking at the final material. That fine, Facebook is being created. Fine, Apple is being created. Or Tesla is being created. Nobody is looking into the efforts which is being made to create those industries. So that is Zuckerberg syndrome. And this is the major problem with the youth today. They want success at a very rapid pace without putting in the efforts which are required. Then the most important issue which is currently going on is funding. The major investors are withdrawing themselves. SoftBank, Tiger Global, they have pulled the funds back. So now we have to see whether they will still hold their bet in Indian startups or not. Because without funding, startup cannot flourish. So startup can be also about innovation and investment. It is not only about innovation, it needs investment to sustain itself. Otherwise, you would not be able to face the giant players. You would automatically be absorbed by them. So you can also talk about competition. See, again it is, if investment nahi hai, to competition nahi hoga, because big giants would be there. So you can start with funding. Fourth is unrealistic evaluation. Unrealistic evaluations. The number game. Unrealistic evaluations.
There was a very good observation on this, the evaluation game. They said that every 1 or 2 decades, we come up with a new overvalued sector. As in, we came up with the dot-com crisis. We came up with the housing sector crisis. We came up now with the startup crisis. In future, we may develop something new.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, यही तो speculation लाता है market में. The false speculation. ये जो economic boom और recession आता है, that's more because of the speculation. In fact, ये वाला point आप अपने defense में भी डाल सकते हो. Yes. जो crisis आते हैं, इसका एक example देती हूँ. वो Great Depression आया था तब 1929. क्या हुआ कि US was mostly relying on these defense manufacturing industries. And the speculation was already World War was happening. So the manufacturing industries were set up and they were making the equipments, defense equipments. After the war, there was a sudden slump because industries were already created. It has already given jobs to a certain amount of or considerable amount of people. But when the demand for those equipments declined, automatically there was a recession. So defense also plays a role in speculation of the prices, the stock markets and everything. And one thing.
And speculation can be drummed even further by xenophobic.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Relying on defense spending.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ये विशियस साइकिल है पूरी. And the major problem with respect to startups, I think we are not innovating enough. We are just copying the Western models, and most importantly, the kind of education system that we have. It does not have that ingrained feature of curiosity, development, research. We just believe in implementing what is already existing. वो सिखाया ही नहीं जाता हमें. Rote learning is what we've been taught.
We should go reverse. Challenges.
हाँ, that's what. नहीं 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 ये नहीं, ये issues हैं. Challenges are altogether different. ठीक है ना? So once you know the issues are given to you. Then you talk about that what is the major challenge in addressing these issues. अब जैसे 2017 में बहुत फ्यूचर पोटेंशियल क्रिएट हो रहा है, बट दैट डिपेंड्स ऑन मेनी इश्यूज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक बहुत छोटी सी बात आई थी कि अब Amazon इज वापस टेकिंग ओवर द मार्केट ओवर फ्लिपकार्ट, एंड फ्लिपकार्ट इज रनिंग इनटू मेजर लॉसेस the entire India startup market. So they said कि इस बार की जो big day sale होगी October 2017, as in the Diwali big day sale, that would decide the future, that who's going to win the war between Flipkart and Amazon. This is how it is. It is boiled down to it has boiled down to the fight between two giants. That is the reality which is existing, and the major investors have drawn their money. So that is now what the problem is. In fact, there was one more thing, that in the recent times, after the impact of demonetization, there was a phase which was created for UPIs, Unified Payment Interface. So that was believed that the Paytm, and there were so many which were coming. So it was believed that MobiKwik and everything, that
Add this in future?
नहीं, हाँ, future. Yes, what is the future which we are projecting? One, that it was a hope was created after demonetization that a new field within startups would emerge, and that is the payment interface. But again, the problem is people are going back to the basics. The demonetization phase is now over. How many of us are now resorting to cashless economy? So that is what the problem is. The problem here, which I can foresee, is our society maybe is yet not prepared for these startups, neither socially nor financially. In fact, this startup bubble is creating an army of unemployed, educated people. And then we can talk about what are the prospects. See, prospects would cover all the government provisions for promoting startups. Whether it is the tax benefits, whether it is the credit guarantee fund, patent protection. In fact, patent is one thing which is a major challenge. Intellectual property domain and patenting. Then just write the prospects, government support, compliance regime based on self-certification, simplifying the startup process, patent protection, exemption from capital gains tax, Startup Fest, Atal Innovation Mission, faster exits for startups, panel of facilitators to provide legal support,
IBC.
yes. There is one story which I was reading some days back. There were two people who had an idea that it is a story of Bangalore, that the two people, all of a sudden they were friends and they got an idea in their early 30s that people are finding, the parents are finding a lot of difficulties in deciding which school their children should be sent. So they decided to start a startup. But then they projected the cost which would be required to start a startup, and instead of focusing on the idea, they started focusing more on the fundraising, and as a result they resorted to criminal activities to raise the fund, and now they are in jail. So this is the challenge which is happening. You're not realizing that startup is more about the idea. What are angel investors for? They are funding your ideas. But the problem is we don't realize. What we are realizing is the money game which is involved. And that's more because of this unrealistic evaluation which is happening. There is too much of consumerist ideology which is getting promoted now because of this startup.
That is a challenge.
Yes, that is a major challenge. The challenge is, first, the citizen of your nation is not smart enough to act as a consumer. For example, there are so many grocery apps which are there, which can provide you door-to-door services, but still we are more governed by the traditional mindset. So the traditional, the cultural lag, that's the biggest challenge. That we are yet very traditional. First challenge is cultural lag. Second challenge is funding. Third challenge is sustainability. Amidst all the competition, the global competition which is existing. Fourth is local resentment. For example, ab Ola we had started, but there is so much of resentment for the local people. So you can say the political pressure. Ola was banned. Uber was banned. So Uber could have come out easily because it had lot of financial backing. It's an international startup. उसको इतना फर्क भी नहीं पड़ेगा अगर एक कंट्री में बैन कर दिया. अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल Amazon है. Amazon इंडिया में कितना भी मार्केट कवर करे, इंडिया में वो लॉसेस में है, बट वो बाहर की कंट्रीज में इतने प्रॉफिट में है कि इट इज इजिली ऑफसेटेड. बट जो इंडियन स्टार्टअप्स हैं वो कहाँ जाएंगे? दे हैव ऑलरेडी कम अंडर लॉस. ठीक है. एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली ये होता है कि डिफरेंट लेवल्स पे इन्वेस्टमेंट होता है. वन इज एंजल, then you have venture capital, and then you have late stage investment. That late stage investment is now missing. A vacuum has been created. So the late stage funding is missing, because of which it has become a challenge to sustain the local startups. Huh.
As a question of talent being presented, in the prospects in government schemes, can we mention Aspire?
ठीक है, बिल्कुल. हाँ
Promote
हाँ
innovative
हाँ.
research.
इनोवेटिव रिसर्च के लिए एस्पायर बोल सकते हो. और भी बहुत कुछ किया गया है. राष्ट्रीय आविष्कार अभियान जो स्कूल लेवल पे भी शुरू कर रहे हैं. दैट्स नॉट बिकॉज राष्ट्रीय आविष्कार अभियान एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम ने स्टार्ट किया था. द पर्पस वॉज नॉट टू क्रिएट समथिंग न्यू. द पर्पस वॉज टू इंस्टिल दैट माइंडसेट, द थॉट प्रोसेस ऑफ क्रिएटिंग समथिंग न्यू. हमारे यहाँ वो चीज मिसिंग है. innovation, the culture of innovation needs to be promoted. Maybe one of the reason why startups are coming is also because of lack of good jobs. Instead of, they believe that instead of acting as a job seekers, let us be a job creator.
We could give a parallel example in medical field.
Huh?
The lack of jobs in hospitals or reputed government or private hospitals is leading to doctors seeking self-employment, setting up dispensaries.
Absolutely, yes.
Of
Smaller, and it is somewhat unregulated. So you can say that it is resulting into out-of-pocket expenditure ka increase. Yes, absolutely. Unethical practices, unregulated, provider-induced demands. एक बहुत मेजर रीजन है इंडिया के स्टार्टअप्स का फेल होने का. एक फाइंडिंग है कि जितने भी स्टार्टअप्स चाइना यूएस में इमर्ज करे, दे वर ऑल बूटस्ट्रैप्ड. Bootstrapped as in your own money was involved, and whenever your own money is involved, you become more cautious. But with respect to Indian startups, right from day one, you are getting angel investors. So that is not there. Too big for their shoes वाली बात आ गई है. एक और चीज I was just witnessing, till the time you would become or remain a service hub, you would be easily replaceable. The day you become a manufacturing hub, you would not be easily replaceable. There are certain, for example, China, Israel, the kind of startups they are coming up with is something very do with research, development, creation of something new, manufacturing. And that is what the problem with India is. You are easily replaceable. You are providing something which anywhere else also can provide. You're not creating something new. The ideas are missing. In fact, government can play a very positive role in identifying those areas where the innovation is required. In fact, हम vision का example उठा सकते हैं. Vision को एक बात का फायदा हमेशा रहेगा कि it was the beginner. If I talk about online test series, then Vision was the first institute. So वो जो first come वाली preference होती है ना, वो मतलब edge Vision would always have. And rest all the institutes are following the trend. They are not creating something new. They are already delivering something which is already existing. So here government can play a very major role in identifying those areas where actually innovation is required. And then these people can think up of some innovative models. ठीक है. इनफैक्ट मुझे ये लग रहा था कि अभी स्टार्टअप के बारे में बात करना उतना सही नहीं, बिकॉज इट्स टू सून टू कमेंट ऑन दीज थिंग्स. हाँ, yes, that can be a point. It is too soon to actually comment that what are the future prospects. Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, एक कहीं point आया था that now instead of providing the services, we are trying to get into the phase of software, as in use of artificial intelligence. For example, let's take example of Swiggy. Swiggy is now emerging. 70 to 80% of the services that Swiggy is providing is basically software based. Human interference and intervention is not there. At only one level human intervention exists, and that is the delivery of the goods. So this is downsizing. You should be aware how much money needs to be spent. ऐसा थोड़ी ना इन्वेस्टर का मनी है तो कितना भी खर्च करोगे, वो प्रॉब्लम हो रही है हमारे यहाँ. Because at some point of time they would want to earn profit, and that is becoming a very daunting challenge. एक कॉन्सेप्ट आया था कि हम ये एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहे कि इंडिया में तुरंत प्रॉफिट आ जाए, बट अ सिचुएशन ऑफ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी शुड बी क्रिएटेड. बट वो तो कुछ हुआ नहीं, इमीडिएट लॉसेस आ गए. और एक और प्रॉब्लम है, ये जो इवैल्यूएशन होता है ना, इसकी वजह से लोग अपने शेयर होल्ड्स बेच देते हैं. एज अ रिजल्ट योर ओन स्टार्टअप, and 1 year down the line you hardly have 4 to 5% of the stake in your own startup. As a result, whosoever is the investor in your startup, they start governing the innovation and how it needs to be proceeded. वही वाली बात है, आपने एक कोई कंटेंट या मूवी बनाई या सिनेमा या कुछ बनाया, जो उसका प्रोड्यूसर होता है, इन द नेम ऑफ TRPs एंड द सक्सेस दे स्टार्ट डिमांडिंग. सो द एसेंस ऑफ द स्टोरी स्क्रिप्ट गेट्स diluted. That is what is happening with startups. Clear है? ठीक है? हाँ.
We have been speaking about the lack of funding issue.
हाँ.
But that is a very myopic view, because funding overall globally in any sector has gone down. Because
Absolutely.
The cycle itself, global trade cycle itself,
Everything is going through that phase. That would take time. Every economy is governed like this. So there would be a phase where there would be a recession, lack of funds and everything. But the problem is not funding, problem is trust. People are not gaining the trust in Indian startups. ऐसे तो Amazon भी लॉस में है. ऐसा थोड़ी ना, losses तो दिखाते हैं, it's a phase of business that there would be profit, there would be loss. But the problem is loss of trust. And that's more because people themselves are not taking the hold or the charge of their own startup. They are going to sell their shares and everything. So obviously, how the other investors would have the confidence in your product? And now the purpose of the products are also getting defeated. The initial intent with which it was started has now been reduced. But there is a positive example. The positive example is Tesla. Some years back, Toyota says that there is no future of electric cars. There is no market for electric cars. And cut down to the present day today, Tesla has created the market. In fact, in April, there were around some 267,000 cars order were placed, which is any day in competition with any of the major brands. So that is a positive development, that if you have innovation, you have something new, creative, you can even fight against the global giants. But you need to be creative. You need to venture where nobody has ventured. Brownfield की जगह greenfield startups are required. There is so much we can do. We have Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. We have so many social schemes to be implemented. The startups can emerge in those areas for better delivery of services. For example, the government always come up with a policy, but policy implementation is not proper. We can venture into that field to ensure that, to identify the pockets where policy implementation is not happening. That can be there. New technologies, the startups can be created. For example, you have problem in agriculture sector. You have problem with respect to sanitation. The technology, innovation can happen. The startups can venture into that field. So you need to, it's high time, you need to come up with something which is innovative. You have to be a first entrant in order to sustain yourself in the market. Yes. Yeah, Oyo, yes. Bilkul, bilkul. Groupon, that is also a successful startup. We can give these examples. You have to be first entrant if you want to sustain yourself against global giants. इनफैक्ट ओयो रूम्स आने के बाद कितने ऐसे टूरिस्ट स्पॉट्स हैं जिसमें बड़े बड़े होटल्स दे आर एम्प्टी बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कॉन्सेप्ट. यस, मेक माई ट्रिप. हाँ, एग्जैक्टली. But then you have to be first entrant. You will make a difference. Because trust would be there. You have sustained yourself for a considerable period of time, people will start trusting you. But problem हमारे साथ क्या हो रही है? Before the trust is built, already the company is in losses. That is what the problem is. And most importantly, we always fail to deliver good services. और इन सारे फील्ड्स में ना एक बार इमेज खराब हो जाती है, बिकॉज मीडिया का वर्ल्ड है. Once your image is hampered, then it gets disseminated too quickly, which needs to be corrected. So with this, we will end. See, just one advice, whenever you're writing essays and everything, just highlight the important points which you want the examiner to understand. And just keep it as simple as possible. As simple as possible, because see, if the examiner is not able to understand what you are trying to convey, then it would be very difficult for the examiner to give you marks. So just keep it simple. Just keep it very close to the topic. Just keep it close to the topic. And just one thing, don't convolute the topic. I'll give you one example of a student. Some 2 years back, there was a topic that you need to be, instead of slow and steady, you need to be fast and steady, something related to that. So he gave altogether a different perspective to the topic, and it backfired. So just don't deviate from the theme, whichever. Exactly. It has to be, and then it should completely convey to the examiner that in what capacity you have deviated from the topic. So that needs to be taken care of.